Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for tuning in to my weekly guitar blog. It's December 23rd, 2012, and this week we're going to run through understanding guitar neck layout. Now, this question was sent in by Thomas. He's from Germany, and he wrote in with this email to me. I started out on a cheap classical, then I went over to a steel string acoustic for a while, and now I've moved on to an electric guitar. The thing is, I am confused as to why and how the necks have gone from shorter to much longer on the electric, because I am still trying to figure out how to play and organize theory on the guitar. I was wondering if you could explain why the neck can be different sizes on different guitars. Overall, I'm curious to know how the guitar neck is laid out. From Thomas in Germany. Well, thanks for writing in, Thomas. I have to say, I can also recall wondering this exact same thing with regard to the guitar neck layout when I was learning to play. And one statement that an old guitar teacher made on this topic has always stuck with me through the years. He said, the guitar neck is really only 5 frets long. Now, at first, this statement seems quite strange and perhaps even somewhat baffling. I mean, obviously, look at the neck. It isn't 5 frets long. However, after I run through a few examples to help you to completely understand this statement, I believe that you'll have a much better newfound respect for what the statement is really trying to say with respect to the fingerboard.
Now, in helping you to better understand the guitar neck's layout, I would like to go through this principle called the 5-fret principle. Now, it's fairly straightforward, and you may even be a little bit familiar with it already if you do know how to tune a guitar through a fretted note at the 5th fret into the next upper open string. Plays a little bit of a role with that. But before we really get started, I want to go down to the bottom of the page here and just read this statement to you. Tuning of the guitar is in perfect fourth intervals, except between 3rd to 2nd strings where we have a major 3rd interval. Now, if you're not familiar with this, this is a very important concept of how the guitar is laid out. If we begin down low here at the 6th string open, there's an E there. And if we travel up to the next string, the 5th string, E, F, G, A, we travel a 4th. If we go next A to D, A, B, C, D, that's another 4th. D to G, D, E, F, G, that's another 4th. Now, however, when we go from the 3rd guitar string to the 2nd guitar string, we have a major 3rd here, G, A, B. So that's really important to understand. Now, the reason why we have the guitar tuned like this is it's a pretty big concept. It has to do with fingerings, essentially, and getting into understanding the different levels of harmony and what we need to play the music, let's say perhaps the last 500 years, and that harmony to be able to finger it properly. That's why the guitar is tuned to standard tuning as we have here. Now, it's important also to mention that this is the standard tuning system of the guitar. This is not any type of alternate tuning that you may come across with some folk or rock tunes or so forth. Now, finally, going between 2nd string to the 1st string, we have another 4th interval here, B, C, D, E, and that completes our guitar string layout from 6 all the way to 1st, and now we have all of our strings laid out. You can tell it's pretty much all 4th intervals when you're traveling string to string, except between the 3rd guitar string to the 2nd guitar string where we have that major 3rd. Next, let's begin moving. Instead of vertical, let's move horizontal, and I want to start talking about these position layouts. Now, as we go from that open E at the 1st guitar string open, and we travel up to the next note of E that we can have, it's unison, in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the 5th fret we have our next E sitting here upon the 2nd guitar string at the 5th fret, and that builds our first set of notes that build our range from open position to 5th fret. Now, I want to also mention before I go any further that these two E notes are identical. If you were to see them on a music staff, those two notes would look identical. They would be the same looking on a music staff if you're reading a sheet of music. Now, they are called a unison, and the notes that we have from the open position to the 5th fret contain unisons of every one of the tones. So we have a full range here between open to 5th fret. You can play a lot of music in that range. Now, when we move next from the 5th fret up higher on the guitar neck into the next 5-fret range, we will get our next overall range of playing area for our guitar neck. Now, this range would hold true for classicals, steel string acoustics, as well as electrics, but Before we go into the different instruments and their layout and their corresponding idea to this, let's just notice what happens here when we're traveling from our second string E to now our third guitar string E. You can see it's a shorter distance because now we're traveling between third to second strings. It's 4 fret distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the distance is only 4 frets up between third string to second string. And that again is because we lost an interval. Remember over here when we were traveling vertically from open string to open string, we were going through fourths. Then when we hit G to B, we had a third, so we lost an interval. Between the third to second string, traveling horizontal is going to be the same thing. We're going to lose one of those intervals. Instead of it being 5 fret distance, it's going to only be a 4 fret distance. Now this brings us though to our next range, which is that of 5th fret to 10th fret. And this would more or less conclude the range, let's say, of a classical guitar, because once you go beyond 10th fret, you're kind of coming up to the body of the classical, unless of course you had a cutaway or something. But in general terms, most classicals don't have a cutaway. Those would be considered those bossa guitars. So generally this is your range of your classical. It also holds true, though, as being the first 2 ranges, however, of the steel string acoustic as well as the electric. But keeping along with our framework that we're building, let's now move from this E on the third string to the 4th string E. And here, because we're dealing with strings outside of our second to third realm, we're going to go 5 frets again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've hit 5 frets up, so we've gone from 9th fret to the 14th fret, and we've also concluded another range on our guitar. So going from 10th fret to 15th fret is a final range for, let's say, a steel string acoustic. Now, if we had an electric guitar, we could go even further, though. I don't really have the fretboard layout here for it, but if I went along the 5th string and I added a couple of frets, say, if I went 5 frets higher from that E on 4th guitar string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would put me up there at the 19th fret. And at 19th, that would conclude around another range. I guess you could even say to 20th would conclude that range. That would be much more, let's say, if you're dealing with an electric guitar. 15th fret to 20th fret would be still a manageable range on an electric. But this is what's happening as we move these notes along the guitar fretboard. One string to the next, carrying over across the fretboard, we're getting these various ranges. And again, keep in mind that all of these E's are unisons. They would look identical on a piece of sheet music paper. It's the exact same note. You can grab your guitar and you can test this if you don't believe me. All of these tones would be identical. Now this basically builds the whole framework of the entire guitar layout, and it's incredibly vital information for many things, from moving scales along the neck, for taking things into different playing areas and regions, and understanding the playing region principles of whatever guitar you happen to own. It's vital information. It's great stuff to fully understand.
So knowing precisely how the guitar neck is laid out is obviously a vital part of playing this instrument with a high degree of flexibility. And the reason for this is because this principle relates to how scales operate, how music reading will be justified through position playing, and also because this idea plays a big part when relocating guitar melodies and chord changes across the span of the whole fretboard. Well, one of the best ways you can really get to know your neck is by doing a 3-part practice study that involves, number 1, training yourself on music reading, number 2, drawing all the notes out on a piece of guitar fretboard worksheet paper, and through the study of all the scale and arpeggio patterns. So start with the 5-fret principle we discussed here. It'll be an excellent beginning for you to carry on with more detail, and then move on to the other areas like music reading, studying all your scales and arpeggios, and of course the drawing out of the notes on the neck, which is extremely valuable. Anyway, once again, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.